Woman flips out when she realizes what's on her thrift store dress tag. From antique furniture to family heirlooms, you can find anything at thrift stores. Many people visit those shops to expand their collection, and Shannon Hiramoto is one of those customers. For years, she has perused thrift shops for vintage muumuus, a traditional Hawaiian dress. Her love of this style descended from a long line of muumuu lovers. But when Shannon noticed one muumuu's tag, her entire life changed. The chances of finding this particular dress was close to none. Here's the story of Shannon Hiramoto and her family bond through Hawaiian fashion. Shannon Hiramoto often spent her time off in the thrift stores of Kauai. Of all her favorite thrift store clothes, she loved vintage muumuus the most. Muumuu dresses are loose, hang from the shoulder, and often sport Polynesian floral patterns. So I'm always hunting for muumuus, Shannon explained. That's my hobby, the vintage ones. During her search, she found an entire rack of these dresses at a Salvation Army in Lihu. Jackpot! Shannon's love of dresses was a family inheritance. At age 14, her grandmother, Mildred Hiramoto, taught her how to sew. Shannon shared her love of sewing and vintage fabric with both her mother and her grandmother. Now she runs her own clothing store called Machine. My grandmother passed in 2011 and I miss her every day, Shannon wrote on the Machine apparel website. Sewing is one way I keep her spirit close. The Hawaiian word muumuu means cut off because the dresses lack fitting around the shoulders and waist. In the 1820s, Protestant missionaries brought a style to Hawaii called a Mother Hubbard dress. Natives called this floor-length unfitted dress a holoku. Over time, the holoku advanced and changed. A shorter, informal version called a muumuu became popular for everyday wear. Hence, muumuus have been a Hawaiian fashion tradition for centuries. As Shannon searched through the rack, she encountered a dress that seemed oddly familiar. This dress was shorter than the others and had a purple floral pattern on pink material. On the V-neck, the dress sported lovely frills. I saw this beautiful muumuu right there, Shannon later said, and I'm like, ooh, a mini one. Because you know it's always fun finding a shorter one. Although it sparked some buried memory in Shannon, she couldn't place where she had seen it before. When Shannon looked at the dress tag, she was immediately struck by what was on it. The Liberty House tag had something written on it in faded marker. She didn't hesitate for a moment. Shannon snatched the dress and ran it to the checkout counter. Shannon had recognized the name on the tag. Upon reading it, she suddenly remembered a woman who had lived until 108, someone who had smiled at Shannon and meant a lot to her. When I looked at the tag, it said Liberty House. Then it also had handwritten on it, Kamei. Shannon told KHON too. And it blew my mind because that's my great-grandmother's name, her last name. Since Kamei isn't a common name in Hawaii, Shannon felt an immediate family connection. But she didn't jump to conclusions. She decided to investigate the dress further with her mom, who would know more than her. As Shannon recounted her tale, her mother listened dumbstruck. Shannon clarified that when she saw the name, she remembered her great-grandmother wearing a similar one. After Shannon's mother calmed down, she examined the muumuu. She admitted that she also remembered Kamei wearing a similar style, but the two ladies didn't celebrate yet. They decided to investigate further, so Shannon's mother pulled out some old photo albums. Their excitement had risen exponentially. Shannon's great-grandmother was Florence Shizuko Kamei. She was born in Kekaha in 1904 and died at age 108. One of her legacies is that when she passed, she was the oldest person in Hawaii at age 108, Shannon said. When she died, they announced it on the radio and news. Florence Kamei adored and enjoyed muumuus. Although she often wore them, the Hiramotos didn't know what happened to her wardrobe. In the 5 years after she died, nobody had seen any of her old clothes. What was Florence Kamei's secret to long life? When she was alive, she told Shannon her secret: green tea and hobbies. She loved her church choir, playing ukulele, Japanese dancing, joking around, and eating. Shannon described on Instagram. Some commenters on Shannon's Instagram remembered Kamei while she was alive. She was always laughing, smiling, and enjoying her time with friends and family. To Shannon, Kame was a happy, healthy, influential woman. Shannon's mother, Hiramoto, gave her daughter the middle name Kame in honor of her great-grandmother. In Japanese, Kame translates to quiet child. The family often jokes about this irony. Neither of them have quiet personalities, said Shannon's mother. But Shannon and Kame shared a passion for muumuus. On top of that, Shannon credits her family heritage for her sewing skills. When her daughter was born, Shannon gave her the same middle name as her great-grandmother, Shizuko. Shannon believes in never wasting clothes. Her shop, Machine, honors this conviction. One of my greatest desires is that my pieces do not contribute to the wasteful fashion industry, Shannon wrote on her company's website. She asks that people bring old muumuus back to her shop. Shannon's love of thrifting stems from this value. She never puts good muumuus to waste. If this muumuu belonged to her family member, she definitely wouldn't toss it. I just knew that she, Florence Kame, always liked to wear muumuus that had pink or purple or red, Shannon said, and the thrifted muumuu seemed familiar in a way. Hence, the ladies searched through photo albums. The more pages they flipped through, the less encouraged they felt. Although Kame wore plenty of muumuus in the photos, she never wore Shannon's new find. Eventually, it started to get late. They had to give up on the search for now. For a couple of nights, no result came up. Shannon kept her thrift find, but didn't receive any closure for the name on the tag. Since she didn't have her family's old photos, she simply waited for her mom to uncover a breakthrough. Fortunately for Shannon, she did. Then a couple nights later, my mom texted me a photo, and it's this, pointing to the muumuu, and it's her, and it's a full body shot. Shannon had to wait for a hidden photo in the back of her mother's collection. My mom said it was the last photo in the album she looked at, Shannon later reported. But there was no doubt that Florence Kame wore Shannon's new thrifted muumuu. Her muumuu was a 1-to-1 image of Shannon's recent thrift find. Pink and purple florals, a ruffled collar, and a short length. It seemed like fate had brought Shannon and her great-grandmother together. Of course, Shannon felt overjoyed at the discovery. Not only did Shannon recognize the muumuu from the photo, but she also recognized the location. Florence Kame stood in front of a white wall with warm-colored flowers on top of it. Anyone in the Hiramoto family could recognize that building. Believe it or not, the location of the photograph had special meaning to Shannon and more specifically her great-grandmother. The photo was shot in a historic county called Hanapepe. The background wall belongs to the United Church of Christ. Shannon recognized it because it was her great-grandmother's church. In reality, it still is her church. What's really special about it is she's there, Shannon explained. Her ashes, her remains are in the back of the church there, so it was like visiting her again. What are the odds that two incredible coincidences could assimilate in one photo? Now that she owned her great-grandmother's muumuu, Shannon decided to recreate the photo. She returned to the United Church of Christ while wearing her newly inherited muumuu. Both the Hiramotos and Kame spent a lot of time at this church. During the trip, Shannon revisited her grandmother's tomb in Hanapepe. She had finally received closure and felt closer to her great-grandmother than ever. After several years, the family tradition had come full circle. She, Florence Kame, passed 5 years ago, said Shannon, so I have no idea where the muumuu had been between that point and now. The fact that Shannon found her great-grandmother's muumuu after 5 years is a miracle. The family is also surprised that nobody bought the muumuu before her. It's magic, Shannon laughed. I think it's just her way of telling me I'm on the right track. To her, the dress illustrates that her great-grandmother is guiding her life. Shannon shared the story on her company's Instagram, @Machine. She reiterated her family experience to over 5,000 followers. Afterward, her post received over 1,000 likes and dozens of praising comments. Shannon also went on local TV news stations to talk about her experience. The simple act of finding a dress sparked deep emotions in people across the country. Evidently, Shannon wasn't alone in believing that her grandmother reached out in her death. Shannon is a big believer in recycling clothes, especially family heirlooms. She says that she will definitely pass on her great-grandmother's muumuu to her 3-year-old daughter. Although her daughter doesn't share Shannon's sense of style, she still keeps the heirloom for her. I've come full circle, Shannon said, and feel like Kame is smiling down on me, or at least giggling. Her great-grandmother's moo-moo tail is still on her Instagram as one of her profile's highlights.